Welcome to Diagnosing Dx, the podcast giving diagnostics the platform it deserves. While therapeutics and devices often take center stage, diagnostics is the engine driving precision medicine. I'm your host, David Filby, and each week we spotlight the innovators, breakthroughs, and real-world challenges shaping the future of DX. Cancer diagnostics has become incredibly good at generating data. The problem is we're still using only a fraction of it. This week I'm joined by Alexander Bagaev, Chief Product Officer at BostonGene, a company spent more than a decade building AI-powered multi-omic diagnostics to help match cancer patients with the right therapies. We explore why reimbursement is holding precision medicine back, why today's clinical trials still rely on a surprisingly blunt patient selection, and how AI could rescue drugs that would otherwise fail by identifying the patients they were always meant to help. Hi, Sasha. Welcome to the show this week. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Absolutely. Where in the world are you?
I'm in Boston right now, enjoying the heat wave.
Good for you. And the World Cup?
I'm not a great soccer fan, so it's all my friends cheering and inviting me over, but I'm skipping.
There we go. Well, we've got some awesome stuff to get into today. I'm really excited about getting to know more about BostonGene, but before we do that, it'd be great to learn about yourself, what your background and career is, and an introduction to yourself.
Sure. Thank you so much. So my name is Alexander Bagaev, or everyone calls me Sasha. That's the usual interesting change in my name, but for Russians, that's kind of obvious. That's a very popular Russian nickname for Alexander. I did my master's in physics, and initially I got a pretty deep technical education, and then I switched to the biology. I did my PhD in immunology in Moscow Institute of Immunology. Well, because I was planning to be a theoretical physicist, but I realized that's too complicated in biology. It looks far more interesting to me, too many unknowns. Physics helped me understand how to think systemically in terms of modeling, how to apply mathematics to biology, and had that naive thought that we can easily apply math to the biology. I was very naive. After that, all my career, I've been focusing on understanding the complex patient's biology through the prism of genomics, transcriptomics, and imaging. So I've been focusing on developing algorithms to integrate different data together to understand the holistic view of the patient, tumor, and immune system. So I joined BostonGene Corporation, where I focused primarily on oncology and oncoimmunology. So there I started my path towards developing the first genetic product to analyze the RNA, DNA sequencing data and help patients select right treatment. Along the way, building software and basic scientist teams, machine learning teams, now it's called AI, to analyze and understand complex data and make it clinically useful. That's a short story of myself.
And how long have you been with BostonGene now?
I've been about 11 years.
And initially in Moscow and then coming over to the US, is that right?
That's right. That's right. I was hired for the Moscow office, and I was building the Moscow office. Why Moscow? Good math, good software. Back in the days, good access to great universities, while I was teaching and getting the students into the company. My boss, the Andrew Feinberg, the CEO of BostonGene, he's also a CEO of an international company for telecommunications called Netcracker. So they had offices all across the world: India, United States, South America, Moscow, Europe. So they had some office spaces, and we have access to the Netcracker brains as well.
Wow. And so what's been your role and how has it changed throughout those years with BostonGene?
Sure, I actually joined very early. I joined as employee number 10. And I joined the company that was seeking the idea how to help patients integrate all the complexity of the information about their disease. To be honest, that's kind of a very common idea. When the patient coming to a doctor, sometimes doctor don't recognize all the details about the patient's tumor. I'm talking about molecular details, but I'm also talking about all the novel treatment, all the potential treatment options. And imagine 10 years ago, there was, I would say, much bigger disconnect from what physicians know and what is available. And right now it's even more. We have so many new clinical trials that might help patient. And that was the idea how we can use the software and novel technologies to integrate all this data together and help select the really right treatment, not the treatment that doctor get used to apply, but the treatment that ideally suits the patient. Well, we've been talking about the true precision medicine. So that was again, that was a very small team brainstorming what needs to be done. But quite soon we realized that in order to really select the treatment, I mean, we're talking about oncology, and the tumors are extremely unique per patient. And the diversity is enormous. I'm talking about genetic diversity and phenotypic diversity plus patient's diversity. So we all combine that into the same story. It means different mutations, different expressions, different structures within the tumor, plus different genetics of the patient itself, different clinical characteristics, treatment history. So we quickly realized that we can't only use clinical history of the patient. This is not enough. And whatever is physicians have in front of their hands, maybe like a basic genetic testing, usually it's like 1 mutation, 3 mutations that was approved by insurance. That's not enough. So that's how we pivoted towards developing the precision diagnostic products focused on whole exome sequencing and whole transcriptome sequencing. So that's how we started growing, and I started getting my first product positions. So I was leading that first genetic product, where we've been focused on developing bioinformatic algorithms and tools to interpret whole exome sequencing. And back in the days, we've been transitioning from the small panels towards the whole exome, whole genome sequencing, how to analyze those mutations, how to apply tumor normal match sequencing. And then we quickly realized that genomics is not enough. We need to understand what is happening within the tumor tissue. There was an era of immunotherapies. There was an era of nivolumab, pembrolizumab. So when we realized that the immune system actually can fight the tumor, but the immune system, although there is genomic predispositions to select patients, such as mutational burden, if it's high, you can apply the treatment, but it was not enough. Clearly, genetics was not the answer. So we started developing tools to analyze the transcriptome of the tumor, means RNA expressions, and interpreting the tumor microenvironment, the immune interaction between tumor and host immune system. So we started developing tools to recognize what's happening in tumor through transcriptome. So we pioneered in implementation of the RNA sequencing in the clinical practice. Among the first, we got the first CLIA, a New York State approval for the whole transcriptome, and we started working with MD Anderson and bigger institutions to implement this novel diagnostics. So we start growing and growing.
Wow. And so where is the company now then, as we see it, and the products that you're bringing to market and that you're developing and your role within that?
So as you heard from the beginning, we've been focusing on developing software tools and technologies to integrate multimodal data together. Now we call multimodal, back in the days we call it multi-omics, from different angles. And we've been helping select right treatment for a patient. And now we realized, and we probably will talk about that from the complexity of the diagnostic space and the insurance, that actually we also develop so many tools to help drug developers select the right patient for a drug. And in my view, that's the same problem, but solved for a big pharma and biotechs, which also lack understanding how to use precision medicine in their clinical trials. Because what is happening right now, usually the drugs are being tested on the random population. Patients are selected by just a smart literature search. Whatever is presented in in the publications. To be honest, that usually that's the best guess. We go in for lung cancer because it's a bigger market, or we go into kidney cancer because it's potentially a good market. This is really blind testing. While we know from the beginning that the treatment is not a panacea, it will not work in every patient. So now we realize that we can repurpose our tools to help drug developers better understand how to make their drugs more successful, means that how to drive the response rate high, but from the other hand, how to help patients avoid unnecessary treatments, how to select and focus the drug development towards the right populations of patients. So nowadays, we're building that foundation through the comprehensive AI modeling. We develop the biological foundation models to combine different data from modalities from cancer tissue, patients, and immune system. So we're developing the foundation models. That's a big AI-based infrastructure to analyze this data, understand how the drug works within the continuum of the tumor and immune system, and then how can we design better clinical trials eventually. So that's what we do through the prism of understanding the complex multi-level biology of the drug action.
So the future of the business will have this focus in addition to better clinical trial selection, patient enrollment as a way for better outcomes of clinical trials. And is that a bigger unmet need for you, or, without being sort of too blunt, is that a bigger commercial opportunity?
That's what we believe right now. The diagnostic space is a little bit cumbersome,
Yeah.
especially in US. So while we from in terms of the science, while we understand all this complexity, while we've been very, very successful our initial diagnostic product because the physicians loved it. They loved the one-stop shop. So our product is that why don't we test one mutation? Why don't we test just one single parameter? Well, now it's obvious just because that's how reimbursement works. But for patients, that's extreme loss because when you select the treatment, you need to do thousands of mutations. You need to know thousands of expressions. You need to know everything about the tumor structure. You need to know everything about the microenvironment. You need to know this. You need to know that much. So we built this engine, and we realized that the insurance companies don't want to pay for this complexity. That was the disconnect. And while it's not solved, we realized that in terms of the drug development, that's a bigger opportunity for us. We know how it works and really can help the patients right away. Through the similar technologies, through the similar understanding, and through the interpretation of the complex biology, where the financial is not adequate. So there's a lot of money spent on the drug development. Billions of dollars are sometimes wasted on the drugs that might not be a failure. The drugs might be repurposed to the right populations and can be rescued. And that's what we do. That's what we do right now.
That's super interesting, isn't it? And I think the whole industry knows about the challenges, obviously, of commercializing and gaining reimbursement for diagnostics. You mentioned you joined the company as employee number 10. How big is the company now?
It's pretty big. We about 600 plus people all across multiple countries. So I mentioned we have office in Houston, Boston, in Europe, and Armenia.
Wow. Amazing growth, huge growth, 600 people around the world. What are the significant milestones that you guys have already achieved outside of the headcount growth? But what's the sort of biggest milestones you guys have achieved in the last 10 years?
So of course, there's several milestones in terms of investment and recognitions. The first milestone was the implementation of the diagnostic test in US, getting New York State among the first for RNA sequencing, establishing partnerships with all major institutions. And we do provide our testing, and our test is beloved by advanced physicians. I would say the ones that are served for top institutions, because we provide that much. We provide everything in the same test, not focusing on one particular mutation or event. And of course, right now we established the important partnerships with AstraZeneca, of J&J and Daiichi, the big pharma companies that we work together, and we help them with understanding of the different toxicity effects of their drugs and how we can make the success rate higher. And of course, we have a number of the biotech partnerships with Ultimo Pharma and many more, where we help design the clinical trial from the beginning, from the preclinical data to the early phase 1, and where we use our diagnostic business as well for the clinical trials. So it's also the very important branch of us, because in order to analyze data, you need to get it. You need to know the garbage in, garbage out. So the diagnostic branch helping us to generate high quality sequencing data, the immune profiling data for patients. We have all necessary certifications. So we support multiple clinical trials to do that. Combo match, NCI match. We also work with the bigger NCI consortia to support the new clinical trials that require a novel testing. A novel means not only against single mutation, but rather complex transcriptomic genotyping. Well, we support a SWOG clinical trial for small cell lung cancer, which was the important milestone, where we start providing the complex transcriptomic testing to select the treatments for patients. Eventually, that could be the companion diagnostics for this cancer. So I think the important milestones, again, the initial recognition, initial investments, where that helped us to get to the diagnostic market. And then now we're leveraging our experience, the software created and foundation models that we're developing on top of the collected data to expand our partnerships with big pharma and biotechs.
So you've had huge growth with the diagnostics, companion diagnostics already, and now focusing in addition on clinical trials. Have you had to change how the company is set up and how it will succeed moving forward? And I guess the second question on that is, are you excited now about the next phase of growth? Because it feels like you're about to open up something potentially massive compared to what you've been doing, and yet you've grown to 600 people in 11 or 12 years. It's incredible growth.
Oh, definitely. I had to change the team structure and the way how we operate multiple times. Of course, initially that was all about how to establish better operations. So in order to have and operations equals the revenues or the better revenues from the diagnostic testing, because you need to optimize the cost per testing. You need to optimize the cost per the quality control per report, etc. So initially we've been focusing on the automating how to build internal systems, how to build that internal CRM systems that flawless. You get the samples and then you get everything in. How to use AI to help deselect poor samples. How to perform the quality control using AI. Again, back in days we've been applying again prediction, whether the tissue block is bad, exclude it, or how can we speed up the work of the pathologist. So that was the first focus. Nowadays, and of course, the focus is on dry analytics. The dry, that's computational side. And since the beginning, we've been a cloud-based company. So I think one of our key differentiation from other diagnostic companies, we started not as a lab. I mentioned before Andrew Farnberg, the CEO, the connection to the software cloud world before. It's telecommunications. And telecommunications solved this problem many years ago. The problem of how to integrate billions of gigabytes of data per customer or from customers all across the world. Because again, every you generate from your iPhone like gigabytes per day. And we've been leveraging that experience in medicine. From the beginning, we started as a software laboratory that apply this knowledge to the wet part as well. So of course, we needed to build the laboratory next. But we've been doing that from the prism of technology. So back from the beginning, we build the teams that can talk with each other. And it's very complicated how mathematicians and software engineers must talk with biologists and laboratory technicians. And that's nowadays, it helps me to expand towards the data science branch and the machine learning branch. I believe we have one of the best people in AI, in diffusion engine, in novel frameworks that allow us to build from scratch foundation models to analyze that particular data types. So now I'm expanding towards the data science more and more.
I mean, it's super interesting. One of the biggest challenges we hear around diagnostics is sort of education and awareness of the product, right? And it feels like you guys have done that really well throughout your journey because of the partnerships you've established and the growth that you've seen. Is there something that, when you look back, about what you did really well in order to, once you had science and something that worked, to ensure that it didn't just stop there, it actually was accessible and adopted?
That's actually a very good point. I wouldn't say that we succeeded in education. Because we could have solved the problem of insurance companies, and we could have solved the problem of getting reimbursement. Maybe that's not your question, but I think education is to educate physicians, right? To educate the field. Those technologies are great to have, and I think when we started working with top academic centers, we didn't need to educate them. They loved the product right away. They wanted the whole exome sequencing, whole transcriptome sequencing. They needed it now. But then we went towards the community hospitals. And here, yes, we faced a huge problem: is that why do I need it? How can I use it? How can I integrate it? How you can simplify it? So we faced a problem of interpretation. How to interpret that complex findings and a lot of biomarkers per generated per patients towards simple treat with drug A, treat with drug B, through the prism of the guidelines, etc. And I think that's what we actually spend a lot of time simplifying the report, simplifying the output, using NLP back in the days. Now we're using AI, machine and LLM services to kind of narrow down that complexity. So I think still we need to educate the field, and I think we've been doing that along with the other companies. Again, that comprehensive profiling is a must, and of course, I think the education should shift from more data to the better interpretation. And yeah, I think that's still an open question. How can we better educate the insurance companies that this is the way to go? How can we educate the physicians how to use that data complexity? And maybe that's on them. Maybe that's not now on us. How to build engines that interprets data and simplifies that complexity for a physician.
Hmm. You mentioned you've had some advantage in that your founders of a company had already solved very complex data problems in the telecoms world. Have you also seen a benefit with the AI awareness and adoption of just the regular people over the last few years, where it's obviously become really popular, and then investment has also flowed into it, and investors' eyes are all over AI at the moment, have been for a while. But you guys, and we speak to loads of people in the industry that have, will say, well, we've been using AI for tens of years, it's just now got popular. But has that seen your products become more favorable, or maybe easier for people to comprehend and go, do you know what? Yeah, actually that makes sense, and that's what we are looking for.
I think yes. The market still needs to understand what the AI is.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. I'm not sure if again the the physician understands what's the difference between different AI tools and still considered to be a black box. Yes,
Yeah.
of course, we used machine learning before, but now we are changing our wheels. So we developing the interpretable AI. We're developing biological foundation models that allows us to model how the drug works within the patient, how the drug interacts and changes the tumor microenvironment, changes the tumor properties in order to see what will happen next. And we train it on top of the patient's data, on top of the real data, and we can interpret what is happening. It's a mathematical model, is built on a very complex math. So in my kind of field and what I do, I apply that novel technologies, the novel mathematics, novel algorithms to solve the previous problems, how to integrate data together. And just back in the days, we used very simple math. We used machine learning, but that was fairly simple. Now we recognize how to train those systems and create robust models, not overfit models, because that was the fear back in the days. Let's use the full complexity of data, and then we'll train the black box to predict, but it will overfit and it will fail on the next patient. Now it's changing. That's why we're developing that interpretable AI systems. But that's one set. Of course, in another set of what is happening in the field is LLMs, language models, and how can we use language models to also help interpret patient journey. How can we help physicians leverage BostonGene that test, leverage someone else test that test linked with treatment history that is usually stored in the clinic. How can we all marry it all together through the language models and help physicians treat the patients? I think we still started to kind of educate the field that first of all this is all possible, and second, how to control it, how to safely use this data, etc. I think we just started, so that's the education just started.
Yeah, it makes complete sense. Yeah, there's still a lot more change needed, and I'm sure there's regulation and so forth to actually allow further adoption in the products.
What I see right now is I think both academic centers, pharma companies, and companies like us trying to do similar things means that there's no one have decided where and who should analyze the final data and who should interpret. I think this is the problem or educational problem we're facing, is that hospital wants to build internal AI engines to interpret data. And they want to get in the diagnostic results for different testing and integrate it all together. Makes sense. Sometimes they don't know how to handle this data, how to, again, because data from different vendors have batch effects. If they all come in, they don't have a quite understanding how to deal with batch effects from terms of data. And so we are, as a companies, the diagnostic companies, we also build the engines to help physicians select treatments on the data that we have. Pharma companies too, they're also developing AI language models to help to train on internal data. And for using internal data, kind of better design the clinical trials. So right now I see that three pillars of the developments that are happening in the field, and then those three pillars are not connected yet.
Yeah, that makes sense. And what happens next then? So for BostonGene, in terms of what's the future plans and milestones and the growth that you're going to see?
So obviously our next chapter is leveraging our experience. We have a lot of data collected, which we use for training. And as I mentioned, we train our models, and we work with pharma companies to help them develop the right drugs and the right clinical trials. And our next milestones to make it visible, to achieve the specific milestones within our collaborations, so we can show how our models help develop drugs eventually, and how our models help patients. So a big number of the collaborations happening right now, Some of them we cannot share. For some of them we helped rescue the therapeutics. For some of them we helped make a decision. This treatment, this therapy should be closed. There is no market for this, and we helped our customers make the decision. So our next huge kind of milestone is make it available to the public. Of course, it will help us, and they will help the field understand that how real AI, how the biological models can really help.
Yeah, awesome. And you've mentioned a couple of the challenges in diagnostics and precision medicine. What's your sort of overview on where the industry is with regards to those hurdles and what the future needs to be?
So I think one hurdle, as I already mentioned, is that the reimbursement is fragmented, extremely fragmented. So that means that in the United States we have multiple dozens of the insurance companies that everyone requires its own approach. So they have different policies, and they require you to basically have a team that works exactly with that particular company. And of course, so there is no kind of unified approach to this. Besides that, as I mentioned, the challenge is that even though the scientific field and physicians understand the need for integrated diagnostics, one-stop shops, I think it's still not recognized by regulatory or insurance policies, because it's just easier to approve one single measurement. So that need to change, at least in the US. And the last thing is maybe again in the era of AI and using these new models to develop new solutions, we need to understand how to work with different data sources. Right now, everyone collects data. We don't share with each other. We have minimal understanding what good data, what bad data. So in the field moving forward, I think this needs to be discussed and resolved.
What's your prediction for what happens first? People sharing that all the data exists. We just need to put it all in one place, or reimbursement and regulatory landscape changing. What do you think is going to happen first, Sasha?
I think regulation will change first. Right now, again, everyone believes that my data is so unique. I will keep it under the lock. They have no understanding why. They have no understanding how to use it. Of course, I'm talking about hospitals primarily,
Sure.
And maybe I'm talking from the position of the technology guy, the software guy, saying, "Hey, I know how to use your data, and you don't. Let's work together. You don't need to replicate BostonGene within the hospital. It's very hard. You will be delaying your developments in 5 years, because it will take you only 5 years to understand how to build databases, how to build those engines. In 5 years, the field will be, I guess, in space compared to where we are right now."
Yeah. If you could give advice, and I guess a focus on future opportunities and where they are in the industry. You've been with a company who has seen incredible growth. You're still innovating and looking at new ways to solve problems. But for an early stage diagnostics company or precision medicine company, or a company with some really interesting science, where do you think those opportunities are for them to win and how they should be setting themselves up?
Well, I believe there's multiple opportunities, of course, but they need to be always open what is happening in the field. It's changing. For example, the diagnostic testing that was relevant 10 years ago are not really relevant now. Well, there was a multiple tests that predict immunotherapy response back in the days, but now they not need it because everyone has been given immunotherapy. So the business idea is changing. So you might have a great test, but you need to know what is the pharma business behind it. What is the actual guidelines around it? Means that they need to be very open to change what testing does. From the other hand, I see a lot of kind of centralization in the field means that the bigger companies acquire the smaller testing companies. But this is another kind of potential path forward for the smaller companies with the great diagnostic solutions to be bought by a bigger player who is less agile or less. Usually, small companies more faster. So I think this is still a huge avenue for developments, and regulations are changing, and we better understand science. So physicians recognize the need for the novel testings. So it's always happening.
I love that, Sasha. I think it's really important that early stage companies who believe their science is going to have a very specific impact or be the number one or sole way that something is diagnosed and tested is naive. And I think you're right. If companies are open-minded and flexible in terms of ultimately how it becomes used and makes a difference, and then as a business, generates revenue and survives and thrives, then that's really good advice. Sasha, this has been awesome to learn more about BostonGene. I mean, it's a fascinating business. The growth you've seen, the way you guys are doing things, and where you're going next is super exciting. Thank you so much for coming on the show and helping us to learn more.
Thank you for inviting me. Yeah, that was a pleasure.